When we were kids, we loved listening to stories. Stories of great heroes, mighty kings, wise queens, even talking animals and magical lands did the work. Every night was a new tale, every tale ended with a lesson. Most of them ended with a moral, some loud and clear, some tucked between the lines, and some just left there for us to find when we were ready. Some stories were so vivid, so rich, they etched themselves into our young minds. Over time, they shaped how we think, how we feel, maybe even who we became. Well, some stories do more than just give a moral at the end. They make you feel something. Because I still remember how my parents warned me not to enter that dark room alone when I was 5. They said it was haunted, and I believed them. Of course, they are my parents. But now I know there was no ghost, just shadows, some silence, and maybe a little bit of unpredictability. I understood that what they couldn't control, they wrapped in fear. What they didn't understand, they made it forbidden. Well, that's not just one story. Because when I was 18, I remember being promised a game controller only if I scored more than 80 in my maths. So, yeah, eventually I got those marks. I got 87 and I waited, but then the controller never came. Instead, days later, I found a new mathematics book on my desk. Well, it was a gift. It was not because of my marks, but because my father just happened to walk past a bookstore that particular day, and I concluded a whim mistaken for a reward, a moment mistaken for meaning, and like all children trained to believe in fairness, I smiled and called it a gift, even when it wasn't what I wanted, even when it wasn't a gift at all. I called it a miracle that I even got something. It was a miracle to me. Well, there another set of stories too. Some stories that harbor a belief. Because if you remember correctly, there is a belief that if a cat crosses your path, you have to let the other person take the risk of crossing that line, that imaginary line created by the cat. It would have happened to you too, not because you understand, not because you believe, but because why take the risk? Strange, isn't it? How little fragments like that stay with us, unquestioned, unchallenged, accepted. But if you listen closely, all these stories and these feelings revolve around just two things, two emotions, I mean, fear and greed. Fear, we know it comes in the silence before sleep, it hides behind the closed doors, it seeps into our bones when we lose control, when we step into the unknown. And if you trace it far enough, all fear folds into one final shadow, death. The fear of not being, of not hearing, not feeling, and never existing. And so we build comfort. Not the truth, but a comfort. We tell ourselves that there is something after that silence, something bright or peaceful or fair. We build a building where there is none, and we call it hope. The sweetest tale ever told. A story so tender, so human that it softens even the sharpest ending. But opposite of fear, there is not courage. Not always. Sometimes it's simply security. The illusion of security. The desire to keep things just the way we need them to be. So we make up rules, we follow signs, we turn randomness into prophecy and uncertainty into faith. And greed doesn't come with the fire, it arrives gently. It doesn't demand, it persuades you. Greed is never satisfied, but it never admits it. It says, just a little more. More praise, more comfort, more success, more of what you didn't even know you wanted until someone told you it was worth wanting. And so you run, you climb, you reach, and when you finally grasp it, you find it's not enough. It never was. Because greed doesn't end with what you lack, it ends where contentment begins, and that's a place it never wants you to find. You don't ask, is this enough? Because no one taught you how to stop, only how to keep going on. But these things, fear and greed, they don't raise questions, they answer them quickly, quietly, and completely. And the answers feel good. They feel safe, they feel right, until one day, maybe you pause long enough to wonder, who told you this? And why did I believe them? And then again, when did I say this was all about belief? Or about fear? Or about greed? Or anything at all? After all, it was just a story, right?